Hi there, Graham from Penguin Motors here. This is part one of two videos on what I shall describe as a retune on a Pinto equipped with a GTS 3 cam and a pair of split 48s on a Brooks manifold. This engine is going to be used for, I think, for some auto tests and some road rallying, which is why it's on the splits. Now, the owner is looking for something a little unusual to most of you because he basically wants lots of grunt low down, wants to stab the throttle hard at low RPM, and he wants it to take off there. He's not too worried what he's doing at 6,500 RPM. So I think we've got a bit of a mismatch in the cam here because GTS 3 doesn't really want to work at such low revs. But here we are. We've got it with a GTS 3 in it. We've got it on the splits. Simpson exhaust manifold. We're going to run it up and see what it does. So here we are. We're ready. Well, we're ready to make some noise. But just before I run it up, just a couple more things come to mind on the spec. As I said, it's got GTS 3, Simpson exhaust manifold, which I believe is one to clear a servo, and it's on 2.25 exit. We've got split 48s on a Brooks manifold with some pretty big 42mm chokes. We've got an Oldham distributor. We've got a big valve head, but more than the fact it's got big inlets, I don't know anything about. I believe the exhaust is standard, and I don't know how well ported it is. We've got what the owner says is a standard bottom end, but I don't know how standard is. I don't know if that is standard as in just fished out of an old Cortina, or whether it has been rebuilt and it's been, shall we say, blueprinted with standard parts, or whether it's, I don't know. It's described as standard. The owner tells me he's only going to rev it to 6.5, but for dyno test purposes, I can go to 6.8. So before we get on to make some noise, what I will tell you is that if you hang on to the end, I'll show you what a very similar engine with a same GTS 3 cam made on a pair of 45s with 38 chokes. So much smaller chokes, but obviously 4 of them. Interesting comparison. Oh, are you ready, boys? Should we make some noise? So, noise made. What did we end up with? Well, not too bad. We finished up with 166 brake horsepower and 149 pound-foot of torque. But the engine is horrible. What I mean by horrible is it's horrible in that it doesn't want to take any load. I started those power runs at 3,500 RPM. And on the dyno, even on a rolling road, you can coax the engine into working at lower RPM than it will on the road. But it just did not like it. It hated it. It didn't want to do anything low down at all with any amount of throttle. It just wasn't playing ball. So hence why in fact I started power runs at 3,500 RPM, because it just simply didn't want to do anything lower down. I put timing light on it, and the ignition timing looked a bit retarded. If I put a little bit more advance in it, it picked it up lower down, but the engine wanted to pink, rattle, detonate. It sucks off as soon as you start to get into the power. So clearly it wanted more timing, but it didn't want it when it came up in cam. So my next port of call was to look at the Oldham distributor in it, and I did nothing very scientific other than to twist the rotor arm. And boy, this has got some stiff springs in it. And the effect of that is such stiff springs means you've got no advance, no advance, no advance, and then bang, it's in. So at low RPM, it's struggling for advance. So we removed the old unit and off we did the Bestek unit. And that made a big difference. Fitting the Bestek unit allowed me to get in the throttle a full 1,000 RPM earlier. The engine would actually take more throttle. So let's do another run and let's see a graph on the Bestek. Now, dyno pull on the Bestek was really interesting because now we had the point that I was actually able to start the pulls at about 2,800 RPM. That's a full 700 RPM earlier. So clearly it liked that. Soon after you release the throttle, there became a big dip in the power curve, and at that point the engine's gone horribly, horribly rich. We can work our way around that to some point, but you know, essentially, too much cam, too much carb choke, given the low RPM. What did we do with our choke swap? Pretty good actually. We dropped down from 42mm to a more sensible 40, and also reduced the main jet sizes several. I think we come down from needing something like a 210 down to a 195 from memory. And yeah, that worked. That worked well because not only did it take throttle better, it took better throttle, and actually there was a little bit of improvement in our dip in the horrible middle bit, but we were able to coax the engine in at slightly earlier RPM. And yeah, we made more power. We gained another pound-foot torque, so we're now up 152, and power took a big step up. We found 7 horsepower. We're now up 175, which goes against a lot of people's logic because we put a smaller choke in and we got more power. Well, why is that? Because the air fuel ratio is the same and the ignition time is the same. Well, the chances are, the odds are with this, what it is the smaller choke has picked the airspeed up. So probably it's carrying the fuel through the carb better. The fuel is probably better atomized, a more homogenized mixture. Whatever, it liked it. So here we are. I've now swung the ignition and the cam timing. To be honest, the cam timing wasn't doing much for it. Fraction advance was probably good for that. And likewise, I've rocked the timing around a bit, and yeah, we've got a little bit of a gain at peak. We've got a fraction of gain right low down, and the trouble is in the horrible bit, it's made it worse. So yeah, if you wanted all that horsepower, great. We've now got 178 peak, but that's not where my client wants to be with it. He's more interested in it being gutsy low down. At this point, I'm kind of running out of things to try. So I've got one less thing up my sleeve, and that is to put some 38mm chokes in it and see if that does anything. Right, there we go. More dyno running. As before, unfortunately, every time I change the graph, the colours change, and the graph's getting too messy. So I've took some of the layers off, and what I've left us with was our original baseline in black. In red, we've got our 40mm chokes, and in blue, we've got our 38mm chokes. And unlike when we swapped from 42s down to 40s, where we actually picked up top end power, this time dropping back from 40s to 38s hurt the top end power, but it certainly swelled it out and brought it on better low down. We've still got a horrible dip, and realistically, in my view, that is purely down to the fact that two big 48mm butterflies, and it's not conducive to good fueling low down. They just can't meet and fuel the fuel correctly, because we have a horrible job trying to make this work. Trying to get enough fuel in it without drowning it is really difficult. And yeah, if we tried really hard, we might be able to flatten it a little bit more with ignition. But I can tell you now, it doesn't want more time in at 2 to 2,500 RPM, and it definitely doesn't want any more at 4. So we're going to struggle to give it a bit more where it actually wants it on a conventional distributor. Mapped ignition, another story. But even then, I don't think with all the mapped ignition in the world, we're going to properly solve this horrible dip. But it is what it is. And just to prove it, as I promised at the beginning, we're going to finish the video with another graph. And in the next graph, I'm going to put up a near identical engine with a pair of 45s and 38mm chokes with the same GTS3 cam, and you see that horrible bit low down isn't there, which goes to prove what I'm saying is that it's the carburation that's causing that horrible bit, not timing and cams and stuff. And on that bombshell, you know what to do, guys. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, and I'll catch you in the next video where we try to tame this engine a little more. See you later, guys.